a podcast!
Hello, this is the second Things About Stuff. I'm here with The Beard.
Hey.
And Bat City.
Hey.
And I'm Alex. And today we are going to be talking about motivation in video games. Anybody want to start us off?
So, there are some games which obviously provide very good motivation for making you want to finish them, and there are some that are bad. Of course, that's what
Final Fantasy 13! I'm sorry. Yeah, you were saying!
Basically, of course, motivation games break down to what makes you actually want to finish the game that you're playing. Some games don't achieve this, some games do.
As I mentioned, 13.
And they can go about this in a whole lot of different ways. Now, one type of game that really has to work on this, of course, would be...
You're talking like type of game, right?
Yeah, a genre.
Genre, yeah, there.
That would really have to work on that a lot would be, of course, role-playing games. And that's something that most of us are fairly familiar with. For most of us, it's our favorite genre. So.
Yeah.
Someone who just, I don't know, you talk like all the time about playing RPGs.
I do play a lot of RPGs.
Yeah, and it's...
Especially if you can get a sandbox RPG, that's like pretty much my favorite genre, honestly.
I like stories. I like characters. RPGs do that better, except when they're mules.
Mules, the enemy of games. RPGs.
The enemy of RPGs. But the one example of a game that does it right, has good motivation, in a more standard method for role-playing games would be, well, you can really pick most BioWare games, but in particular, I would point out Mass Effect and Dragon Age Origins, which do a really good job of making you feel for the characters and wanting to complete the story because you want to learn more about these characters, you want to learn more about what they're thinking, what they're doing. You want to fulfill your characters' relationships with them, whatever that may mean for you.
Yeah, they also have the big emphasis on, your quest, your story, and everything like that. And they actually they put a lot of focus into it, like in the development, I'm pretty sure, for making them.
The story for most BioWare games was really well developed, where you were invested and interested in what was going on.
Yeah. They make you feel for the characters that are in it, for the goals of these characters, for really, finishing the story.
While you're playing the game, their motivations kind of become your motivations.
You even start to care more about the moral choices that you're forced to make in most BioWare games, more than I found in other games. Like, when I would go back through for evil playthroughs in BioWare games, I would actually find myself kind of feeling bad for being a jerk.
Why
am I such a horrible person?
Yeah, I had a really hard time with both of my second playthroughs, both Mass Effect and Dragon Age Origins, because in both of them I decided to romance a different character. I did not like that character. I don't really like Ashley that much, but I mean it's not like I hate the character. It's just I like Caden better. I used him more in the game, and I thought he was a more interesting character to me. And also I like when you're talking about Ashley, I like Liara better. I find her to be more fun love interest for that game, I guess. And for Dragon Age Origins, I don't like Morgan.
Well, Jake played the entire game with her. Didn't you play your game with Morgan in your party?
I don't know. I think I might have stopped using her later.
Oh.
You just like the whole party of mages thing.
Yes, because a party of entirely mages was kind of awesome after you hit Arcane Warrior, because Arcane Warrior was hacks, but you're well aware of that.
Yeah.
Everyone is well aware of that.
Well, not everyone. Most people don't. People didn't do Mage and didn't happen to stumble across Arcane Warrior or look it up. Didn't quite know that it may be practically invincible if you put it together right.
Yeah.
But it also in 2 they changed how that is.
And so you can do entire party of mages in Dragon Age 2.
Well, they don't restrict you.
It doesn't work as well.
Yeah.
It's possible though.
It would be very terrible and would not work on higher difficulty levels, which is also fairly true. But we never played hard or expert on those, so it never mattered that the firestorm would normally kill us. But we're really getting off topic at this point. Yeah, I didn't like Morrigan. I thought she was...
Let's get back on the train at the point I least like.
Yes. I really didn't like Morrigan. And so it was really difficult for me to keep playing that. And I'm pretty certain my character's going to end up romancing Zevron, even though I haven't actually been using him.
Just because you're like subconsciously averted to romancing Morrigan, that you're accidentally romancing Zevron?
Yep.
Whoops.
But that is one handsome, charming elf, I guess.
The entire internet.
Next question.
Next question.
If only we had people to ask us questions, I would make this so much easier.
If we ever get that far, I can dream. But let's switch games and switch the topic a little. Another thing we have been discussing earlier in the day is Dark Souls and how that makes you.
Yeah, I know. I was the one who was really pushing to want to talk about Dark Souls.
Yeah.
We started thinking about Dark Souls. Yes, I love Dark Souls.
That is a fun game.
If only we had Commander Shepard here right now. I'm Commander Shepard. This is my favorite RPG in the Citadel.
But no, it's not my favorite RPG, but I really enjoyed it, and it was a very unique sort of experience, and even the way it motivated you to play. It was an incredibly difficult game, and its predecessor, Demon's Souls, which is always really fun to say. Had a very unique level of difficulty that is often reminiscent of the more older genre of games when they were really hard and dying was a horrible, horrible thing.
Because you had to put in more quarters. Those jerks.
Gambling is out of our monies.
Curse you, Battletoads.
I was actually thinking a little bit later than arcade. But most of the arcade games, more like the ones that were ports from arcade games, but on console. But definitely, yes. But yeah, due to its difficulty in Dark Souls, when you finally were to overcome a challenge, there'd be this giant sense of fulfillment to be like, yes, I killed them. And that's one of the huge motivators in Dark Souls, really. Just to get to that point, get strong enough, overcome the challenge. And just more of a show of personal skill than it was just, I leveled up.
Yeah.
Yay.
Yeah. And it's not just that, it was so difficult to do. They also did a really good job of making those moments look and feel awesome. It wasn't just, I accomplished something. It was, I accomplished something. It looked like you did something. The things you were fighting...
I just destroyed the gigantic wolf with the sword in its mouth.
I'm the only one who destroyed the gigantic wolf with the sword.
I know, but the feeling of accomplishment during that moment was like...
And you were just watching.
Just an example, and you didn't say it.
I know.
Even going back to the first boss, it's still... They just have... Which was fairly difficult.
Yeah, when you first see that thing, it's like... Holy crap. Yeah. That thing's like 20 feet tall. It has a giant club.
And you climb up the stairs, if you did it smartly, I suppose.
And that's the only way to enter that area, I think.
Yeah, you had to go up there.
For that.
No, you had to run away from him because he would go into your face the first time you see him.
Okay.
You couldn't beat him, I don't think.
Alright, and then you drop on him from above, and then you take him out after dodging all those swings for all that time.
Especially those first opening like cheap shot type things where it's just like boom.
Yeah, the drop attack was a nice addition to Dark Souls. It really helped. If you can position yourself above your enemy, you can practically kill them instantly by just dropping and plunging your sword into their face.
But it really feels like just did a lot of
Very
Every single thing, every hit you finally are able to land, every enemy you're able to take out, it has this feeling of accomplishment, not just because it was so difficult for you to do, but because it looks like you did something. That enemy is taken out. That looked challenging. You just beat this Goliath of a thing, and you feel like you've really accomplished something. And that is how they kept you pushing. That kept pushing you forward, kept motivating you to the next boss.
I fought the third boss, or I don't remember exactly. I don't remember its name. Gaping Dragon, maybe something. It was this giant dragon that was just teeth pretty much for its entire torso split down the middle. I fought that thing a good over 10 times, maybe 15 times repeatedly, dying until I finally went back, leveled up, and then killed it. And that was just such an incredible accomplishment when I finally owned its face.
The time and effort in the end when you finally like all the effort you put into at that like during that final thing just really seemed to be definitely worth the time you have put into it.
Yeah.
And then you just move on though. I don't know. Have you either of you? I don't think you have, but Beard, have you finished it? No,
I have not beaten it. I got, I don't know, over the halfway point, but didn't play much more after that. I still have it and still meaning to play it, but haven't quite had the time yet.
Yeah. Because something I was thinking when I said that was, what is it like? What does it feel like when you beat the final boss? Like that must feel like greatest thing in the world.
Well, just beating anything in that game feels like the greatest thing in the world.
I know, but the end boss I'm hoping would feel like more than the rest.
I don't know what it is.
The big bosses are the hugest accomplishments, but even the smaller, harder enemies, like the first time you come across them and they own your face. Like you guys remember those knights?
I remember the knights.
Charge you. I hated those knights.
But then you get to the point where you can just beat one of those easy peasy every time. Then they start throwing two of them at you. Because that is a fair game. But that's beside the point, because we're talking about motivation here.
Also in that game, they also make you learn. Well, not exactly while you're fighting like the knights, because they have that charge attack that you have to really you have to learn the tell, and then
you have to learn how they fight each different. One of the most interesting things about Dark Souls I actually realized was the amount of times you go through a level because of its difficulty and the way the rest system works, where if you wanted to get your health potions back or your spells and all that, you had to rest at a campfire. And when you do, it would completely reset every enemy in the level, so you had to fight them again. And it got to the point where I had memorized the location of every single enemy and every single path through every single area I went through.
Because it just... But at the same time, when like after the first few times and you've learned all of this stuff, you really feel like you have beat the level. Like even the stage alone had its own feeling of accomplishment after that point.
Yep. Another one, commonly once again in RPGs, is just this is the motivation just to explore, to learn, to see more. Now,
Alex has been waiting for this moment
my entire life. No.
Now this is what actually got Alex to like video games.
It's when the world itself alone can make you draw you into this game. Like you want to know everything, you want to learn all this stuff, and especially if the game itself shows it in a way that isn't just reading, just like even if it's just characters telling you the story, the world itself can tell you the story, and it's in such a way that you really dig in. Like you want to dig in, and it's not just some meaningless walk through the canyon to fight the boss at the end.
I mean, I'm pretty certain everyone on the internet at this point has their own crazy Skyrim stories. And of the funny things they've run into, which is just due to the massiveness of the world, just due to the things you can do. That is a real world. All those kinds of games, Fallout 3. Okay,
Yeah,
all those
Bethesda game.
Bethesda games in general do it the best.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they work on it.
We should
really
not
hard.
confuse people and make sure the game we're talking about with Alex was Fallout 3. We never said that. It's not Skyrim.
Yeah.
But Alex's favorite game and the game that got him into gaming was Fallout 3.
Where the world and all of the little knickknacks in it and everything just showed you a characteristic about the world and the music. I like the music. I like it a lot. Like it just gives you the the world. I love it.
Yeah, personally, I preferred the Elder Scrolls games myself to the Fallout games, but I'm much more of a fantasy guy than sci-fi. Well, I do enjoy both, but give me some castles and magic and some swords, and I'll just be happy forever.
I'll be content.
Draw those games, yeah, it's just that there's stuff out there. And it's an experience. And when you find these little experiences, these little moments of just wonder, where the game tells a whole novel of a story in a moment that you just can't get in most games. And it's what makes you keep coming back to that kind of game. And certainly sometimes it may be something they don't even plan, that really you don't get the opportunity in a lot of games. I will tell you, my favorite moment in Skyrim it involved breaking it. Jumping out of one of the cities. I am not good at remembering names, so I'm not going to say.
I thought it was Whiterun.
It wasn't Whiterun's the main city.
One of the main ones, the first one.
Yeah, Whiterun's the
Solitude had a big wall.
the way to the east. The one to the east.
No, he didn't do it off the wall. It was just like things.
Ulfric's city. That one.
Oh, that one over there. I don't know which one it's called, but that one.
Yeah, that one.
You now know if you play enough Skyrim.
Yeah. I'm terrible with names.
So whenever you can join the rebellion.
Yeah, which apparently you didn't.
I didn't. I haven't chosen either one yet.
Okay.
Actually.
Well, and this is something that you can't do in a lot of other games. Just jumping out of the map of that town and running around the world. Now, most games would not take the time to still create a poor model of the entire world of the game when you're in the city map. Skyrim has that. You can climb all the mountains you want once you escape the map of the city. You can jump around underneath the city. You can jump around back into the bottom of the city. You cannot kill people from underneath the city. That is something you cannot do.
It was disappointing.
That was the greatest disappointment of this experiment. And for me, that was so much fun. That is seriously the most fun I had.
You should have tried Fireball.
I think I did try throwing one spell. I don't remember.
No, but like an area effect spell that would hit the ground and explode above it.
Maybe
it might not have exploded because I don't think you explode underground when you fire it above it.
Yeah.
Who knows? Nobody knows yet. Right?
Never
No, someone might know. Someone probably knows.
Yeah.
True. Someone always knows.
Yeah.
And even a whole bunch of other moments in that game. I mean, through just what my character was doing, I was able to get this very strong understanding of what my character was. An absolutely crazy berserker barbarian with an obsession for killing wolves, possibly raping them.
And hunting deer by running them down with your greatsword and chopping off their back legs.
Yep.
I love the Lego goats.
And that is a game that lets you do that. It lets you have these crazy experiences that just keep pulling you in and keep pushing you on. I would say it's not just experiences themselves, but experiments. Being able to just mess around. Another great game for that, Minecraft, of course. That is the only motivation of Minecraft.
You have to have something in mind before you pick up Minecraft to really want to keep playing Minecraft.
Well, the beginning bit of like, okay, I gotta dig, gotta find some iron, then gotta but you do eventually hit a point where you're like,
if you didn't come in with a goal, you're probably not gonna reach one by that point. That's what.
Well, no, you kind of come in and then you experiment for a while, and then you decide that you want to do something.
I don't know. I always thought of something when I first started, like for mining. Like I had that idea of a tunnel system for my mine, which was really weird. And then after that, I was able to think of I just needed something to use all this stuff I had just laying around in like my 5 or 6 chests, and I'm just like, I'm gonna build a city in the trees, and that's what I did, and I'm still doing it because it never ends.
I remember eventually I had so much stone and decided I'm gonna build a tower and just keep building this tower like 6 by 6 or something like that, going up and up and up.
I did that with snow.
His snow tower was pretty impressive.
And then I built it 1 level down and then built it out. But only like a little
Well, I would go up like a floor, like have an entire working floor that extended out a little bit with a balcony, then go up.
Oh, I just built this gigantic tower. It had like 4 blocks inside, and so I had I think it was a little bit bigger. It was maybe 3 blocks by 3 blocks inside, because I was able to have a bed and workbench in there.
Yeah. Once again, that's just that kind of motivation is something that definitely keeps people playing. I mean, it takes a long time to do that.
Yeah, I did get bored of Minecraft myself. I couldn't figure out something I wanted to do enough to keep playing.
I don't know. I just don't. I really want to get back to Minecraft after talking to one of the guys. I was thinking about playing it again. I'm just all like, I think I actually did pick it up a little bit ago.
I heard there's some new stuff though, which is getting me interested in looking back at it again. When they officially released the game on like Xbox Live, they came out with new stuff. Like I heard something about there's a giant boss now that you can fight. That's sort of like an end game boss.
Really?
Yeah, I read that somewhere. I haven't confirmed it, but
it could just be a mod.
Could be.
Everything could be a mod.
But I heard that since they officially released the game, it's no longer in beta in a way. It's still updated, but it's not in beta anymore.
It's now $30 too to get it.
Unless you pre-ordered it like the rest of us. Alex.
Hey, I did it. Yeah.
Let's move on.
I've been cheating until now, or until soon, whatever.
Maybe.
Let's move on. So, like we said, there are a whole lot of different ways that you can really motivate a player. You can motivate them by making them feel a sense of accomplishment. You can motivate them by making them feel invested in the characters and story. You can motivate them just by giving them different things that they can do, letting them go out and just mess around. One that is used, that is a very poor one, that we shouldn't really go into because other people have already gone into it a lot, is conditioning. Just conditioning you into behavior, getting your dings, getting your nice new stuff.
Just Skinner
the more obvious Skinner box.
Pure Skinner box.
And for those who don't know the Skinner box reference, go watch Extra Credits. Do it.
Now. Or have like a basic understanding of psychology.
Or just watch Extra Credits.
Always watch Extra Credits, Josh.
Yeah,
we all watch Extra Credits. But no, it's what Josh said,
it's just that
Fat City said about
it's just that desire to get to that next level, to get to to finish that next level, turn another page in the book, next chapter, whatever. Just gotta get one more for the next 3 hours.
This is what is generally done in MMOs with a subscription model in order to keep you playing them.
Yeah, WoW is one of the hugest culprits of the Skinner box thing.
But it, oddly enough, winds up in a lot of games that have no subscription model. This is how a lot of Diablo clones work. It's getting as opposed to just your dings, you get loot. One that Diablo clone that I'm fairly familiar with is
Borderlands?
Borderlands, yeah.
So that's
Bat with names. That's Bat City.
That's Bat City for you.
Bat City does not remember the names of cities.
And yeah, we've already done this already. But so you would so Borderlands is a Diablo clone?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, you're right. Your explanation.
That was one of the big things before they released it. Was like, we're going to have 5 million randomly generated guns. It was some crazy number like that. It might have actually even been 5 million. It was huge.
Yeah. And it was entertaining. In a weird way. It was entertaining in a very addictive way. It made
you find that first Helix rocket launcher that fires 3 rockets in a spiral pattern that are all on lightning.
You've hit the
when you find that first gun with the maximum multiplier of the element you like using, it doesn't matter how terrible it is. You now have to collect it and put it on your list. When you find your first Magnum with explosive rounds that shoots in 3-round bursts.
I'm sorry, but this is now giving me great memories of Human Revolution.
Basically,
with explosive rounds.
Yeah.
Best weapon ever.
Why do we always forget to talk about that?
I don't know. I love that game. It was like my favorite game of last year.
Let's just.
Well,
I know for all of us, it's one of our favorites, but.
I didn't play it much. I don't remember why I had to return it. I had to return it for something.
But whatever. Moving on.
Technically, we talked about that one too.
Yeah, conditioning. It's common in a lot of RPGs. It's common. I guess you could say. Basically, any kind of achievement.
But it's really in there for every video game in some way or another. There's always something to accomplish, otherwise you wouldn't have a game. And you want to accomplish that and then accomplish the next thing.
Yeah.
It's just, there's some games that kind of do it to such an extent where it's the only thing pushing you forward, and then you look back and you're like, wow, I wasted my life.
Must get more lives, must get more stars. I mean, seriously, why are
there always stars?
Why are there lives
Why
in platformers anymore? Why? There's no purpose for them anymore. They're just there for you to collect them.
Not really.
Even when you think about a Mario game, you can continue. The difference is either continuing from halfway through the level or continuing from the beginning of the level at this point. That's the big difference.
I guess for that game, but I was watching my mom play Donkey Kong, and there are no halfway points.
Okay.
You would literally have to you either start from oh no, there are points. Sorry, I am wrong. Those points are the entire game. While it is harder to get through the entire level, like you lost a giant chunk of your accomplishment there, and so that would be a reason to get lives. Like the only thing is you can grind up lives like crazy in that game. Like my mom,
once again, they're completely pointless.
My mom always has the max coins and always has the max lives. She can't get through it very well, but she does have the max of everything.
Everyone has their methods.
Everyone has.
It's the Dark Souls method. Just keep pushing forward over and over again.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
But also with the Skinner box, it would be also. Isn't that also what all the vills or
all of the
Farmville,
the social network.
Yeah, social network.
A lot of social network games really bank on it, but there are a lot of ones that don't do that. Okay, there are a few that aren't explicitly based almost entirely on it.
Well, I don't know. There is a bunch of games where they don't do that. Those aren't. But those games are either not just social games. They're flash games put on a social network, or they are usually something that's brought from a different game into that place. Like I've played this I think it's Prince of Persia. They did one, which is just you run across the level and you go and to the next level, and you just keep going through these levels until you reach whatever end they had. I don't remember.
I haven't played any social network games really. I kind of avoided it simply out of principle. There's nothing really wrong with them, but I didn't want to get into them.
Yeah, I'd say the more terrible sin of motivation that they use is by just pressuring you into it through your friends and whatnot, and bombarding you with messages about it and the likes. But I think that's mostly toned down. Not that I would know. I don't.
No. I get at least, let's say, about 30 or 40 messages a day telling me to go play some kind of social game.
Yeah, but you're like the crazy social networking one here.
Yes.
City only just made his, and I made mine a while ago, yet refused to use it for anything too much.
And by this, we're talking about Facebook.
Yeah.
I made mine a month ago.
Yeah.
I made mine about a year ago.
I've had mine for maybe 2-3 years. And
Freak.
I'm major into. I'm doing the most social networking.
He likes people.
I do like
crazy person.
Liking people. Be more antisocial.
Be more.
That's why we use Google Plus.
Yeah.
Don't use Google. You don't even have a Google Plus account.
Shush. It was a good joke.
Okay, fine. I know. I was making it too. But
use Google Wave.
Well, we use that for.
Wave has been canceled.
Wait, what?
Totally
Wave is canceled.
Completely?
Yeah, they took Wave down.
What? I was on there like a month or two ago checking up stuff.
They took it down.
Oh, lame.
All right. Well,
I should like that, but.
We still haven't gotten to the ones that just do bad motivation altogether. So, this is something we're going down fun talking about.
We shouldn't rant for too long.
The other thing I've been looking for.
Final Fantasy 13.
Oh, that game.
It does a bad job at motivating you in just about any way. The dinging is not fulfilling. In any way, because of the way the Castarium works. I mean, they can't really push you to keep playing through that just because
it's linear.
Well, no, that's not why. Well, yeah, the leveling is too linear, and also you get the points in these huge amounts, and awkwardly enough, if you're following, well, not awkwardly enough, they did this intentionally. But if you follow one character's group for a while and then you switch back to the other one, you still have all the experience points from the other one for this other group. So you never get this fulfillment of, ooh, you leveled up all these times, or ooh, you got this up or that up, because so they drop the ball on the most simple method of motivation. Like, obviously drop it.
So wait, you're saying it's a bad
conditioning.
They kind of removed it from the level up and more to certain unlocks you could get along the way of your tree would be like, yeah, I got this, which is kind of nice, but at the same time, it never did have quite the same sense of fulfillment.
Now, of course, since we consider conditioning not to be that good of a form of motivation, we'll now move on to the ones that are good forms of motivation that they messed up really bad.
Well, in our opinion, those of you who love conditioning can go and be mindless zombies if you want.
Hey, that's kind of rude to those mindless zombies.
I know.
With their menial shut up.
You're the one talking still. I've been waiting to say something.
Okay, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say about that. Are you saying that it was bad that when you had to follow this other people and all of your characters leveled up was a bad thing?
No, because you get it in points from each battle that you complete.
Mm-hmm.
And there's huge amounts of points. Most of your experience for certain characters, particularly I believe Saz and Vanille, would actually come from the people Lightning or
Snow.
Well, not Snow. Lightning or Hope would be beating because their sections had more enemies and came up more and were longer.
That actually just sounds
Vanille and Saz were out on their own whole entirely different thing for a very long period of time. So they kind of...
When you leveled them up, it felt weird.
Because they just suddenly had all these points, and so you'd suddenly put all of them in. Actually, the same thing happens to Snow when you finally get control over him, again, is you just suddenly have all these points that you have to invest, and then you do.
Yeah, that you didn't
Those
earn.
characters have been doing nothing for the last 3 hours, and suddenly they are just as strong.
They've been reading for 10 hours.
And also,
it's all about the
getting
skill
these
books.
huge collections of points from each enemy you defeat. It doesn't have all the fun sounds.
Yeah.
Even buying new things on the Crystarium, really, really not that big of a deal.
Alex.
Okay, I was trying to say that we have 35 minutes on the clock.
Okay, well,
Now you're just throwing everyone off with your crazy hand gestures.
I said 3 and a 5. Shut up.
I thought you were saying I was being way too loud.
Or
but-
something.
No, I would be.
I think we're gonna have to cut this part out, but
No, we don't cut anything out.
okay. Well,
I
this
might
is gonna be
have to
awkward.
now because
They'll just laugh. Now stop talking about this and move on.
We're so unprofessional.
don't care. It's hilarious. Okay,
We're not getting paid. We're not professional.
Okay, so
We're not getting paid yet.
what was I going to go on to next, or should we go?
We
on?
were talking about how 13 did the rest of the.
Okay, so yeah, going on to the rest of them because
conditioning.
we've already explained conditioning. We don't. It isn't a good method.
Well,
That
it isn't good.
I
on
just
its
have one
own.
more question, Josh, about the conditioning. I know you did get levels at some point, but when did they happen? Because I remember
You have to purchase them, and it's an obscene amount of points, and it really isn't an accomplishment in any way. And it gives you no feeling of ooh.
Yeah, you didn't get a level for doing something. You got points for doing something, which would eventually give you a level.
Yeah, which you have
It
to. Don't you have
takes
to?
an obscene amount of time.
You have to go around and get all the rest of the points
Yeah.
and go up this chain.
Getting all these new things, it hardly feels like getting new level ups on some other game or getting new equipment. Okay, the equipment maybe to a certain degree, leveling up equipment was a little bit more conditioning, I guess, maybe, because that felt... We're moving on.
Well, I didn't like the equipment system though, just because like I would keep getting new weapons, but my old ones would always be stronger. So I would keep using those. I just felt like I wasn't normally getting a new weapon's a good thing. Like, yeah, I suddenly have a better weapon. I'm not going to be
Well, you
doing
can
more
level up the
damage.
new weapons.
But you can, but your old ones will wait. It'll take a long time before your new one will catch up and be better than the old one, and by then you'll have gotten another new one.
Yeah. So, moving on.
Characters and story.
So, on to the ones we actually care about. So, characters and story. This is the place that many people will say they dropped the ball so incredibly, terribly bad. Very, very bad. I am more sympathetic.
You're not going to be.
I did fairly like the story. I enjoyed it.
I don't know. I couldn't get into the story because then they make you read everything.
Well, there was a lot of reading. Yeah, they would have the story, and then they would, when you hit certain points, it would unlock sort of a recap thing for certain sections that would tell you additional information if you read it.
Oh, well, it would also make sense.
Other than the cutscenes.
It would make sense.
Which is something that I
So story-
turn off for me.
Was a little bit... Okay, it was pretty bad. I mean, I still kind of enjoyed it. I thought it was decent at the very least, better than a lot of games put into theirs. It was still kind of fun. The characters were, a lot of them were very bad. A lot of them were okay. A lot of them I actually even liked.
And then there was Hope.
Yeah. We didn't like him, obviously, as you can presume from that.
How many people actually like him?
No one likes Hope.
That's
People
what I
like
thought.
him,
What?
actually.
There's always someone who likes.
Okay, fine.
There's always somebody who likes somebody. And that's
He was,
okay
he
with
was
them.
a whining baby.
Baby child.
Stop being so jerkish.
Oh, I
You
just
did not
sit here and
connect
make fun of
with
it.
me.
That's all I do.
Because his character arc was... It's not... I'll admit it. I'm pretty certain they were trying to go for something that was like, ooh, isn't this basically what someone would do within that situation? I'm like, yeah, they kind of would do a lot of the things Hope did, but then at the same time threatening to...
Well, the biggest problem... One of the biggest problems I had with Hope was, especially towards the beginning, he would have this whole big thing about, like, being kind of afraid and more like a normal person during cutscenes. And then suddenly he would get into a battle, and he would stand there just like everyone else, just right next to the seasoned warriors, and fight perfectly, just fine.
Like a seasoned warrior.
With his boomerang. And so it was this huge gap between how he acted in cutscenes and how he would act in battles. And it was just, it broke the experience in a way.
So breaking.
He also was kind of one of the less fun characters. Just his personality was one that is fairly cliched within JRPGs, or at least it's assumed that there's a lot of him within JRPGs. I'm not going to presume that the whole whiny
baby
character
child
is there's really that many of them, but
I hope there's not many.
I haven't seen too many.
It's something people don't like. It's something it's a big complaint people have with it, and then they made one that was really, really that, and actually, this is a problem. Really, you shouldn't put children in these stories that are not explicitly about children. Really, I'd argue that's the problem. Children shouldn't be in this kind of game. I'd say it all.
I would say they could add some definite like story elements, some character building in there for at least other characters. I'm not saying he should be in the battles.
Yeah,
that's kind of messed up.
Yeah, they should be in the battles, and this is a very particular reason why they can be.
Yeah.
It's just, it's not the kind of story where I want to have children. There are a lot of stories that are really great where you have child protagonists and things like that, but there are certain kinds of stories that they just get in the way and make things less entertaining. Certainly, it was a very realistic portrayal in a sense of he was really sad all the time and he lost his mom. He should be sad. He should be in despair and all of that, but at the same time, I don't want to have a character like that on my party. I mean, I understand. And this is actually a really annoying thing about the game. They made each character so that you weren't supposed to like them in a lot of ways. You were supposed to dislike certain parts of their characterization. Which is really puzzling and really stupid.
Why?
You're supposed to think Lightning's just a jerk, cold-hearted and dumb. You're supposed to think that Hope is being a whiny baby child.
Baby child,
sure.
But
there's nothing wrong with giving your character flaws.
Yeah, that was.
And that's the thing. Giving your character flaws. There's no problem with doing some of that, but when that becomes so huge that it's annoying beyond.
Like their flaws outweigh definitely all of their.
They're kind of going for that dynamic character thing where the entire beginning of the game. You didn't like a good majority of the characters for various reasons, but they would get better later.
Did that happen?
You would.
Okay then, they're dynamic.
But it just didn't work very well though.
It
was how horrible they were in the beginning in a way.
How much they wanted to point it out. Right?
Just how short of a period of time that really they become decent characters. Hope gets over all of his big problems. Once you get to Grand Pulse, how many cutscenes explicitly involve Hope at that point? None. None of them even talk about him, really.
Well, wait, wasn't some of the beginning about his mom dying, wasn't that a cutscene?
No, he's talking about after you get to the halfway point when you get to Grand Pulse.
Oh, afterwards.
That's kind of when he makes the transition to being less of a baby.
But he didn't have a cutscene.
But they have a cutscene to have him transfer, and then he doesn't show up again. They don't show the new Hope.
Oh, they dropped him off a cliff.
Well, they don't drop him off a cliff. There's no more character development after that, and they don't really show what this new character development is. We're just informed, he's gotten over it. We don't know what's changed, really. Some characters that do a little bit better than that, Vanille and Fang, because we see them get to their old village and we get a lot of their story explained to us. I'd say they end up being a bit more well done. Saz is better just because the ending is more closely dealing with him and his problems. It really ends up being a more one of the more heroic characters. Snow, his big character change is alongside Hope, where he finally gets over being such a cocky jerk, and then he really doesn't show up again. Is to show what he is no longer being such a cocky jerk is like. Lightning, I think they do show a bit of her stop being so.
Yeah, I think she does show her work. She was technically the one chosen to be the main character in a way among the main characters.
So yeah, so she was done a little bit better in that they did show like what happens afterwards. She's no longer quite as cold with the other characters. A little bit better at dealing with other people's emotions and talking to people. But a lot of the characters, they just say they've overcome their big flaw, then drop them off the face of the earth. As far as story development is concerned,
They stand there in the background.
Yeah. They may as well no longer be there because they're just background characters at this point.
They become mules.
Yeah, I was going to say, they should just replace the character models with mules.
Yep. They become the dreaded mule at that point. I will agree with that.
Armored mules, though, because they can fight.
Hey, we didn't say that regular mules couldn't
mules
fight.
Can fight.
True.
They can kick.
I have seen Lydia take on some things.
Yeah.
There's actually, I found a replacement for the mule. It's an NPC that follows you, talks, has good lines, and can't carry stuff.
Wait, what? In where?
It's a spell you can get later in the Dark Brotherhood. It summons this ghost. You can summon him once per day, but he stays there until he dies. So he can't carry things, he follows and fights you, and he's cool.
Okay.
Wow, they actually did something there.
He's from Oblivion, that's why I asked you earlier if you played Oblivion.
Oh, okay.
Because it's Lucien LeChance, the old Dark Brotherhood speaker.
Okay.
But yeah, enough about Oblivion.
Moving on. World. There was none. When we finally got to Grand Pulse, it was so long in that really was no longer a motivation. And then for the last quarter of the game, you're no longer in Grand Pulse. You're back on Cocoon. And it sucks. They're putting you through brand new corridors. And it sucks.
I powered through the game until the point when I got to just a little bit in of Grand Pulse, and I couldn't take it anymore. I had just put in 30 hours of my life, and I finally get to the section of the game that's more like what I've been wanting it to be, and I couldn't take it anymore. Josh got a lot farther than I did.
I am right before the last boss.
And he doesn't care anymore.
Want to know how long I've been there? A year and a half.
Until Gelth gets up to that point, and then you'll just be like balls.
I do have to be the first one of us to beat it. I would be very embarrassed since I was the first one to get it.
I was the first one to go to war. But yeah.
Worlds, they do that very poorly, as you've probably already heard.
They don't like. So there's nothing to really like, and the world doesn't get you invested at all.
Yeah.
Really.
Experiences. There really aren't any big experiences. No.
Well, there are a few nice harder bosses that are really nice to defeat.
But that's dealing with that other one.
With conditioning.
Yeah.
Well, not conditioning, adversity or accomplishment.
Accomplishment or difficulty. There's not many. Because of the way that they changed it from the big open experience that Final Fantasies normally are down to this really linear kind of thing. There wasn't exploration that you could go around and find these little things that they put in there. All you had were a corridor with monsters to kill, then a cutscene, then another corridor. Until Grand Pulse, when you could do side quests, run around a circle and kill things and do a side quest.
So really, the side quests were very...
It was pretty much go here, kill this. WoW has more detailed side quests.
Yes. They're much more based around... their side quests are not experiences, they're accomplishments. And I'd say...
If you call them...
Well, no, they are.
Oh, okay.
They're
difficult
fights.
yeah.
Oh,
They're
okay.
unique fights.
All right.
So I would
Good.
say that's actually one kind of motivation that their new model, the new way they did it, they actually, I'd almost say they hit it out of the park.
The other thing is that they introduced it so late in the game. It was after you had just been trucking through the first 30 hours, just at the halfway point, and then they give you these side quests. And you just don't want to waste the time anymore. You said you didn't do the majority of the side quests, right?
Yeah, and also, really, the fights only become fun once you have access to the entire party. And once again, you're on Grand Pulse, because the fights before Grand Pulse, you don't feel really like you're accomplishing much. They're until you're on Grand Pulse, I mean. Yeah. You don't feel like you're accomplishing much. You feel like all the guys are just either bland or just frustrating. You're flat out frustrating. There are so many enemies that were just bad.
Yeah, and the game would have been a lot better if they had gotten you to Grand Pulse about 20 hours earlier.
Yeah, I think that would have made it so that one. And if they had done a better job with the storyline and characters and presenting those storylines, those characters, making you feel for them while they're still having their flaws, not just feel angry at them or feel like, this is so obvious, your problems are all based on this.
Why are you...
Get over it.
Well, it really does, because they make it so obvious what the problem is. You're just thinking, get over it. You don't get this situation where you understand what's going on. Because, really, Snow just feels like, he's an overconfident jerk for no good reason. But he really, I really think if they'd done it a little bit better, he could have been, without even changing the way that he acted, just giving him those actions that are why he acts like this or the good parts of him, you could actually feel for him more. Hope, even, I think you could do a lot better, as opposed to just showing where he's scared or where he's really just feeding his thirst for vengeance. We could have shown a little bit more
angsting.
Yeah, more making us feel for that angst, making us actually like this character. They could have done that better. You have to make them like the character, and when you show character development, you have to show what happens at the end.
What happens after they're
they are a complete character. After they have changed, you have to explain what is going on.
There's the flawed character, then the character changing, then there's the complete character, the character that you want to see, the one you've been waiting. It's like, okay, now he's no longer whining, or he's no longer a jerk. I want to become familiar with this guy. This is the guy I want.
Yeah, and you weren't given that opportunity with a lot of them. And I think if they had corrected that, it would have been a lot better. If they, let you get out to the fun part a whole lot earlier, that would have been better. But there's one part where they were just flawed by simply the way they designed it. Experiences, you were not going to have them.
Well, Alex, what's our time on here? We've been talking for a while about Final Fantasy 13.
50 minutes.
Okay.
52 minutes and a half.
Well, I think we're good here.
No, there was more I could say, but we kind of...
Is there anything... Do you want to cover any other games? Leave on a better note?
One of the things I actually wanted to say, 10 minutes ago, would have been that in it, the world itself doesn't kind of call at you at all to look into anything about the world at all, in either Pulse or Cocoon.
Yeah, mostly because you can't. There is nothing to look at. It's kind of pretty, but there's nothing to experience by looking around.
And the sad thing is, you can tell that they actually came up with all this stuff for it. You can look through some of that lore. You can listen to some of the stuff that the quest givers tell you, and you can be like, wow.
It's a neat place, but you don't get to experience it.
Yeah, which is something I was thinking about comparing it with Human Revolution. With how they had all that other stuff that you're kind of like, what the crap's going on?
The emails and the times that you spend in the city hubs, and you just walk around, and there's things going on. There's people living their lives. There's
around
those breakdancing guys in the subway.
Yes, those guys.
You don't just get hints of there being a full world around you. You see a full world.
It's right there, talking to you when you walk by.
Breakdancing.
as you walk by, and that's definitely one of the parts I really like about Human Revolution.
So yeah, we talked about Human Revolution.
Yeah.
Finally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everybody gets a high five. You find someone, high five them.
You can't, high five yourself.
Yeah, that works.
For having listened to us for nearly an hour.
And realize, it's not clapping, it's giving a self high five.
Or clapping. Okay. Well, that's it.
I think we can stop here.
Okay.
Thanks for dealing with us for an hour.
This is some one-handed applause for you listeners.
And now signing off.